one person leaving their workplace at night and doing something that they love, that ripple effect absolutely can change the world. And I guess my personal mission is I believe that if people didn't worry so much about society's constraints and did what they really wanted to do, our world would be such a better place.
We're actually meeting Sal, a friend of Dandapani. We're seeing Dandapani tomorrow, and he really recommended talking to her. She just moved from Australia to New York, so let's find out about her. Let's make a left. Hi Helen, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Helen.
Hi, Antonia.
Great to meet you.
I'm P. So nice to meet you.
Hi, Katinka.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you
How
too.
are you?
Yeah, great, thank you.
And actually we're here for exploring workspaces, right? Because so what our company, Christoph's company, Antonia is a co-founder, does, we implement software tools, like communication tools, G Suite, Office 365.
Yes.
So it's all about communication, collaboration, and through that, the whole workspace topic has evolved because there's a huge demand in Germany for it. So basically, we're a couple of years behind.
So what's happening with workspaces in Germany at the moment?
I feel like a lot of people are asking for open office. A lot of people are asking, we're still working in very old hierarchies in companies.
Like people in the senior people in offices.
So it's more a cultural topic than workspace topic.
Yes.
But it's I would say we're not solving the problem by putting some new furniture in there.
Yes.
It's really about culture and changing habits, changing minds. And so we visited a lot of companies here. It was nice to see Vayner Media, how they work, how they organize. We talked to Harry's yesterday, which was amazing. We've been with them for a while. We saw RGA today, 600 people in two floors.
Yes.
Actually, we walked 2 football fields in a way today.
Wow, yeah.
BIG, meeting a few others tomorrow and on Saturday. So.
And are you particularly interested in large companies?
No, not at all. Small companies, large companies, co-working spaces. We were on our last trip. We were WeWork, of course.
Yes.
So yesterday they worked really closely together with a BIG company, who is the architecture firm. So it was nice to know a bit about the We Live concept. They have a We Education concept, right? So there's a whole thing going on, community-wise, and So I saw you have a video on what the issues we come across in workplaces. So that that was nice to see. And then we're curious to meet you, what you do and what drives you, and because you just moved from Australia here.
Yes, yes.
Tell us a little bit about.
So I started my business in Australia 11 years ago, and that was to specifically work with small to medium businesses, so businesses predominantly under 100 staff, with everything to do with their people. So how do they actually get their people to perform and be engaged, and the culture, but also the difficult things when people aren't performing or there's issues within the workplace. So basically everything to do with a small to medium business employing staff. So that's what that business was created to do, and as I said, it's been going for 11 years. And over that time, I just learnt more and more from doing the work, but I also learnt probably the most from then being an employer, because when I started the business, I had never been an employer, and bringing on my own people, building a team, people coming and going and excelling and not excelling, and my journey of how I developed as a leader, the mistakes that I made and the things that I got right. And so over time, a lot of the products and services that I started to then put out to clients was as a result of my own needs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I would say, this isn't working in my business. How can I solve that? And then I would solve it, go, I've got a solution, now I'm going to talk to my clients about it, and then they've become part of what we do.
So why is that small to medium business, 100 people?
Why that?
Why that specific?
Yes, because one of my roles prior to starting the business, I went into a business that had 100 staff, and they'd never had a sort of a people and culture person before. And I came in, and so there was like 6 teams within that business that were all head up by a team leader, and when I came in, all of those teams were managed differently, dependent on the skills of the team leader. So if you happen to work in customer service and that team leader was really great at leading people, then those staff would have a really good experience. But if you ended up in accounts and that leader had no idea how to lead people, you could have a really poor employee experience. And so I came in to make the employee experience the same across the board. So put in place frameworks and training to the team, to the managers on how to
make it like one.
Yeah. And so I was there to sort of train the leaders, put in place frameworks for them all to use, so that every employee, regardless of department or role, would have a great experience in that workplace. And when I was looking at it, I kept thinking, these guys are really lucky that this company has employed my role to help them with this. And I thought, these teams or departments are really just like small businesses. And so what are the small business owners out there doing? They can't afford recruiters to help them recruit great people. They certainly can't afford HR managers for a team of 10 or even 30 people. So they're business owners that are good in whatever their business is, but that doesn't make them good people managers or leaders. So how are they? What are they doing? What's available to them? And at that time, there was nothing available to them. And so I created the business specifically to service that market. And as I then built my business, I realised what an important and special market that is. And I know a lot of people go, oh, why aren't you going for the corporates? You can make so much more money that way. But I think that people that go out and start their own business, those people are incredible. They're putting their house on the line, they put their heart and soul into it. And the employees that choose to work in small business, that's risky. There's not as much security. You usually wouldn't earn as much as you would in a large corporate. You feel the bumps along the way of being in business. And I love that space. And in Australia, and I'm not sure here, but it wouldn't surprise me, it's the largest, small to medium business is the largest employer. And yet we get no extra benefits or really no extra support. So I've stayed in that space, and I love it because I think it's a space that can really make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Because you can do things.
I've run 3 times across the number of 100 these days in that context, because I think Claude from VaynerMedia was mentioning it, and then today Laura from RGA was mentioning it, because they have about 700 people in this building. And then Bob said you can only have a relationship with 100 people. That's proven, like 100 or 120 plus. So they broke up in teams as well, about 100 something that size. So that's exactly what you're saying, right? That you can only have a relationship with 100 people. So that's a good team. I mean, besides the fact that it's a nice business
business size. And I think you can make a bigger difference because you can have a direct connection with a person, and you can really customize their employee experience to what they need, and therefore there's a huge impact in the workplace and then in their personal life. Whereas you have massive large companies, you've really got to do a bit of a cookie cutter type approach because you can't customize the experience with that many people. So I think that I love that space, and the experience I've had of being a small business owner, and what I've learnt as a leader has been something that I know that I would never have been able to get in corporate, because it's real grassroots sort of learning.
So what exactly do you train with once you're in the companies? Like what do you train with them?
So the main things that we focus on, so I work specific here in New York, so I decided to finish the...
So you came to New York?
So I decided that I wanted to come to New York, and so
Why was that?
Because I was coming here 3 or 4 times a year because I just love it, and I love the vibe and the people, and I think it's the best city in the world.
And where from Australia are you from?
Brisbane and the Gold Coast, yeah. And I was like, I just need to be here. Like, I need to be living in New York City. And so I have a number of businesses, so I've got the one I talked about, but then I'm also in some tech that are around 1 year to 18 months old, so very early stage. And I was like, I want to be here, so what's the best way to do that? So I decided to bring one element of my Australian business to here. And so what I focus on is working specifically with founders on connecting them to their vision, mission, values of their business, getting the organisational structure right, because most small businesses I go into, their structure doesn't actually enable real peak performance and growth. Getting clear on what people's outcomes are, helping them to get to help their staff understand what a good, great day looks like, and then ultimately team interaction. So I'm all about how do we get this business performing at its absolute peak? So how do we get people engaged through their own performance, rather than looking at what great perks can we implement. I'm not really into that. I think that people get their engagement and satisfaction from knowing what a great day looks like and being able to do that and fulfill their career aspirations. And that's different for everyone. Some people want to go up the ladder, others don't, whatever that may be. So and I'm particularly working with the founders and the entrepreneurs, because that's what I understand.
That's what you've done too, right?
Yeah, and that's the way I think. So I can say to my clients, I know exactly what's about to happen because I did that and it was a disaster, so don't do that. Or,
yeah.
Or I did this and it really worked. So yeah, so I'm utilising my personal experience a lot now here in New York. Because in Australia we've got a team, so I wasn't doing much client work anymore. I was more just...
What was your work in Australia? Was it also this consulting company then? Or
yes,
was it...
yeah, but we also did sort of the day-to-day in businesses as well, whereas I don't really do that now. I don't work with the staff as much. It's more about really working with the founders and helping them to achieve whatever they're trying to do. And here in New York, I've found it's a lot about fast growth, which is a space that I'm particularly interested in. So, and the traps with that, because I actually have a real issue with fast growth. I think that speed isn't sexy and we should actually slow down. I'm all about sustainable businesses that I want to be around in 5 to 10 years, rather than growing enormous amounts in the first 2 years and then going into liquidation. That worries me. The startup space really worries me.
What exactly? Give us an example.
So there's a lot of glamour around being an entrepreneur and being a startup and getting investors and getting funding. And I think that we focus too much on telling budding entrepreneurs that business is about getting investment and how fast you can grow. And that's not actually what business is. Business is about being able to create a service or product that is going to service someone, that somebody actually wants and is willing to pay for. And yes, some businesses need to get investment to achieve whatever that business is, but ultimately at the end of the day, you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and your revenue needs to come from your consumers. And we don't tend to, we're not talking about that because that's not very sexy. And we don't talk to people about what's the reality of actually owning and growing a business. It's about boring things like cash flow and, staff management. And it's so painful. And we're putting out there this glamorous thing where all you have to do is create pitch decks and pitch to investors. That's not what, yes, that's an element to some businesses, but it's not really what business is. And so I worry about what we're putting out there to particularly those people that are moving into entrepreneurship for the first time, what the reality actually is. And it's serious. You're putting your own, financial life on the line, but you're also bringing other people in, whether it's investors' money or staff or whatever. It's a serious thing. And I feel very privileged to be in business, and I just don't like it when it's glamorized and people think it's about, growth and fast cars and fancy cars and whatever. It's not. You've got to love it for the process of what it is. So I'd like people to enjoy the journey of business as opposed to all be about, I'm going to hit these goals and tell everyone. That's great, but it's not what it's really all about, I don't think.
So do you come across workspace topics in your, with the companies, with the at all, or is it really about the culture? I mean,
look, I think Workspace comes into the culture, and we've had, we've had some really interesting times with clients around when it's been time to, say, move office, and they start to think about, well, what should our configuration be? How do we move from the old to the new? In fact, even in our business, a few years ago, this is like crazy, but I was going around Australia doing a talk on the future of work and what I thought that the future of work looked like, and as leaders, how we needed to be prepared for that. Anyway, I was on my sixth state that I had done this talk, and for some reason it was the last one that I was doing, and I looked down at the audience and I noticed these people, writing notes, which you should be happy with these, saying stuff that people want to write notes. And I thought, these people are actually listening and taking down what I'm saying. What if what I'm saying is not right? I'm basically talking about the future. This could actually not be right, what I'm saying. And so I went back to my office and I said, we need to test what I'm saying. So I moved. We'd been in the same office for 6 years. I moved everyone out. And
how many people?
So there was 15 or something at the time. And we went into a co-working space, but I put in all flexible hours so you could work where your energy led you to work. I upgraded all of the technology. I spent $50,000 on upgrading technology. And basically started to live what was being said and what I was saying the future looked like and what that meant. And it was a disaster. So what happened was we definitely lost connection. We lost education we were always in open plan. So we underestimated how much we learnt from hearing each other on the phone or throwing questions across the office. That was a very big part of our individual or our team development that we didn't really value or notice. We found people were just disconnected generally. And so this whole flexibility aspect of, just work wherever, whenever, and, we'll use technology to keep us together, it didn't work. And so And I put out there when I did this that I was going to do this experiment, and then I was going to talk about it and talk about what we learnt from it, and there were certain things that we could have done better. But ultimately, what I found is that really we do need to be together. And then I I did some tours of Silicon Valley and saw that people that had created these flexible workplaces had actually reversed that, and everyone was coming back into a space together. And I certainly found in my experience that we were better when we were around each other. So that was an interesting experience for us. The open plan was something we've always had, but probably didn't recognise the importance of that in the way that we worked.
Didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, we didn't appreciate it. We didn't realise that we were actually, you have your training sessions every week where you all go into the boardroom and someone runs a training session, but you don't realise that actually there's all this training happening all the time by hearing people on the phone, and even to the point where we noticed that we had this great manager who would, whenever he was on the phone, he'd go and walk around, and we were finding that we were losing development because of him doing that. So we made him sit at his desk when he was making those client calls or those prospect calls, so that people could hear, what he was saying. So there's things like that we, undervalued, and we undervalued the structure that people actually require. So what I learned was, in our situation, was that giving free-for-all flexibility doesn't necessarily work. People want flexibility, but within a boundary. And so when I took all the boundaries down, it was sort of people were like, I don't know how to work. And it became unproductive and but when I sort of said, okay, so these are the boundaries, now work however you want within those, then the efficiency went up again.
But yet we're meeting in a co-working space again.
Yes. So what I think. So the other thing that happened for us. So I don't think it was the co-working space that was the issue. It was the fact that we made it so transient. It's like, here's our space. If you want to come in, you come in. This is where we are. And if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. Whereas, so my team here, this is our office. Yes, we're in a co-working space and we use the benefits of connecting with other businesses and having a community. But ultimately, we have our office and we come. This is where we come to work. And yes, we're pretty flexible in your start times, finish times, all of that sort of stuff. But generally, like, this is our office and we come here every day. And the co-working element for us, and here there's people that are just on their own, so they come and sit with a whole lot of people that are in other businesses, whereas we have our own office that we sit in, just the two of us that sit in a particular office. But we find that the benefit is the community when you're small and when you're starting out. But in Australia, we've got our own. We're not in co-working. We're in we lease an office that we're all in, but that's a bigger team. But certainly open plan. But what I was going to say about one of our clients, so they were about 70 people, and they had their office building was very old, like they'd been in it for a really long time, and so everyone had cubicles. So they weren't necessarily in offices, but they were all like cubicled off, and they were an accounting firm, and so they created this really funky new age designed workspace that had all these sort of more areas like this and less desks, and so people could move around, and it was very open, and it looked great. But when you consider the work they do and the type of people, that the workplace they designed was funky and looked awesome, but it actually wasn't conducive to the type of people they employ and the work. People that are in that field tend to like that.
In a way.
Yeah, and of course they're not going to build cubicles again, but they don't work like you there, me here, and chat to people as they walk through. Like, that was actually very distracting to them. And what happened was they didn't end up utilising these these free spaces, and people were sort of like, I want my space, and I want to be able to concentrate and focus, and bring another industry or another business into their space. Perfect.
It's actually exactly what we were talking about with RGA today. Before they built their space, they have put so much effort into finding out how their people work, how they communicate, how they collaborate, what kind of work they do. They had these, I don't know if you've seen their documentary, it's really nice to watch. It's on rga.com, and then about workplaces. It's really nice, and they show all these maps on how people communicate, and it's like a beehive sort of thing. And so they were able to build their rooms and their spaces according to what they found out about the people. So that was really nice.
And I love that, because I think a few years ago, it became so trendy to have these sort of workplaces where, no one had a desk, and so everyone went and did it. And no one stopped to think, well, hang on, but who are we? How do we work? What is our work? Because it might be really cool, but if it's not conducive to whatever your industry is or however you work, then you're just going with a trend that's not. It doesn't support, and it doesn't help. In fact, it makes it harder for your employees. So it's like, let's not get caught up in the, in whatever the buzz is. And I think this is a problem in entrepreneurship and workplaces, and all of this is like, oh, this is the new thing, so let's all do that. It's like, no.
It's all very glamorous again.
It's
like what you said about entrepreneurship. It's also about workspaces. It's very glamorous.
Yeah.
Just make a new space.
Exactly.
Make it really fancy. Make it new workish.
Yeah, and it's like, no, actually, what is our industry? And actually, we need people to really concentrate. So we need a lot of quiet spaces rather than a lot of, all of us sort of all working together and everyone on the phone. Like, that just doesn't work for some industries, but it's amazing for, maybe creatives or sales or whatever. So, and that's what I found with us. Like, what I implemented would actually stopped all the things that made us great at what we were doing. But it did help me understand why we were successful, like what working practices made us successful, which I probably didn't recognise before. Yeah.
So you were talking about your new work journey on the 6 locations or something you had before. What were you talking about besides the work? Back in Australia?
So
I mean, I'll frame it differently. What is the future of work for you?
Yeah. So I actually think that. So I think that whilst we've been caught up in, our world's moving so quickly because of technology and, everything's so fast, I think in workplaces it's not actually as fast, it's not happening as fast as what we thought or what we talk about. I think that there was a lot of buzz around, the millennials and how we all had to change because of our millennials and what they need. And I think that the Ys didn't actually make that much of a change to our workplaces because the education system hasn't changed that much. So the education system of my staff that are, say, 15 years younger than me, it's not that different to when I went through the education system. So therefore the expectations of the workplaces are somewhat not too different. But I think that when our Zs come through, and like I've got little kids, when they come through, they are the ones that are going to really change our workplace because their whole learning environment would have been so different to, say, what I had.
In what way?
Well, one, the need for university degrees is not what I think is becoming less and less, obviously depending on career, but you can, back many years ago, you could not get a decent job if you weren't university educated, whereas that certainly is not the way of the future. There's so many ways that we can learn now. We can do a whole college education online. We don't have to, we can learn in all sorts of different ways. There's so many different jobs now that you can be extremely successful in and not have to be educated at all. So I think this will change, these sorts of things will change our workplace. So I can see certainly with my millennials here as opposed to Australia, the different way of working and the ability to, the need for flexibility, freedom, all of those things. But I don't think it's not disrupting our workplace as much as I think what we expected it to at this point. But I think we will see more and more change. But I don't think it's like, for me personally, it hasn't meant that, our whole workplace has been disrupted because of the generations coming through. But I do think that it will change over time. I just don't think it's as quick or drastic as what we think. Just like, Silicon Valley went through the whole stage of like everyone works from home and work wherever you want, and then they pulled all of those policies and brought everyone back together. Things like that. So I think we're much more likely to try new things. Whether those changes are necessary or helpful, maybe not so much as what we thought. So, yeah, things like that. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see sort of 10 years' time what work will look like, because I love this whole introduction.
What do you think?
Well, one of the things that I've loved is the introduction of the gig economy. I think for business owners that's been amazing, because it's meant that, things that I have wanted to do in my business in the past, I couldn't do because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to bring a specialist in and employ them and give them a full-time job doing something that I don't need full-time. And so, ideas perhaps are not developed. Whereas now you can go online and hire someone to do one tiny little project that they are specifically awesome at and make something happen. And I think that is really exciting, particularly for small to medium business and particularly for the freelancers who can do that. And I think that the other element of that is that we can have staff who have their side hustles. And I think that's really interesting because it enables us to have people that are maybe being inspired by something else, but are serving a purpose in your business, as well as having those people that are in your business because they want a career, in your industry. So I think that changes the dynamics. And I think ultimately all of that means that as a business owner, we can do so much more than what we could before. So that sort of thing, the side hustle gig economy, I think is the biggest change that I've seen. And I think that's really, really interesting. It just makes everything so much more affordable. Ideas to be able to be generated so much quicker, or brought to life so much quicker. So I think we're seeing that now, and I really love that. But I'm interested to see how management and leadership is different in 10 to 15 years because of that different generation coming through.
Yeah, I think but that's my very personal point of view too. It will be a lot more about giving up ego. I think there's no way around that, right? I read this quote today that was about, how is it again? People never leave bad jobs, people always leave
bad managers.
And I found that so true.
Yes, I agree. And I think, again, because now we can have people that are a lot younger than us and a lot less experienced come in and bring us so much knowledge because it's so easy to be self-educated now. And so I think that dropping the ego, and I don't know if you follow Cy Wakeman, but she's all about no ego. She's amazing.
What's her name?
Cy Wakeman.
Cy Wakeman.
Yeah. And her whole philosophy is no ego in the workplace. But I think that that's really interesting because you can bring someone here in who is, in their early 20s, who has enormous value to bring because they've been able to self-educate so easily.
How is that connected?
Just because we have access to so much information now, which I didn't have when I was that age. I didn't have access to, the podcasts and the vlogs and, the courses you could do, like all of that you could do yourself now. So for a manager who's 50 to have a 20-year-old come in, they have to be able to drop the ego and say, I'm willing to listen to you. It's not I'm older than you, so I know more. It's like, maybe not. So I think that's really interesting, and I think that will be a huge change for some of our leaders that are perhaps are more mature in age. So yeah.
You mentioned earlier you support companies finding their why and finding their values.
Yes.
What is your why? What drives you?
So for the business, I set a mission right at the beginning that I believe that if someone comes to work and it's a great workplace, and great is different in different industries, but if they come to work and it's a great workplace, when they leave work each day, I believe that they're more likely to have positive interactions with their spouse or their family. They're more likely to get involved in community activities, more likely to be fit and healthy. I think a great workplace, impacts what people do outside of work. And conversely, I also think that if people are working in workplaces that aren't great and are not a good experience, then they're more likely to leave and have, snap at their partner when they get home, or not want to go and coach the footy team, or
guilty as charged.
Yeah, or go, I can't be bothered going for a run tonight, I'm exhausted, And so my mission is to create as many great workplaces around the world, because I think that the ripple effect of that
influence.
Yeah, so what happens when people leave their workplace every day, if everyone can be happier and doing more things. I've said that mission thousands of times and I get goosebumps every time I say it, because I really believe that. And I remember I had an employee once, as I talk about it all the time with the team, and they said, how can this little business in Brisbane change as if we're going to change the world? And I was like, you know what? One person leaving their workplace at night and doing something that they love, that ripple effect absolutely can change the world. And I guess my personal mission is, I believe that if people didn't worry so much about society's constraints and did what they really wanted to do, our world would be such a better place. And I think there's just so many people that aren't doing what they want because society says, you know, oh, you can't do that, or, you know, you're that age, you can't do that, or you've got kids, you can't do that. And people are not having the careers they want or not living the life they want because, oh, you know, you don't do it that way. And I think that if we can break that, and that's what my mission is, and that's what I'm doing right now, if we can break that and more people can just go and chase their dream regardless of what anyone else says, then that's only got to be good for the world. I really believe that. So, yeah.
It's especially, you mentioned you have 3 kids?
3 boys, yeah.
I saw that on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
They how old are they? Between
11,
and
9 and 5.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So learning from them, my kids are a little younger, 1.5 and 4. But that's exactly what they do, right? They're not stuck in. I see myself telling her, like my daughter, don't do it like this, don't do it like that, do it like this, do it like that. But that's actually so wrong because she's not stuck in this framework that we're in.
Yeah.
Actually, last time I found myself without that framework was maybe in my studies when I was going to university and I could just do whatever I wanted to do, and yeah, we lose that in a way.
We absolutely lose that, and I think our kids teach us a lot about that. You know, you can see it when, you know, they're doing things like they're dancing, and they don't care. They don't care how badly they dance or how silly they look. They're just, you know, having fun. And then we go through, and it's, you know, at some point we then become self-conscious, and then, oh, you know, and then we don't do that anymore because we're worried about what we look like, and it's really. I think that's why we look at kids and we see so much, we see so much joy in them because they're not worried about what anyone else thinks, and they say what they think, and, you know, they do what they think, and I love that. And, you know, unfortunately we then get to this point where we're like, we sort of put ourselves in this box and we've got to work within this, and I don't know, I don't really think that's conducive to happiness, you know, if we can't be ourselves and you know, communicate in our own way or live our own lives. And I just don't think we're doing that. And I know, like with my experience of coming here, people say, you know, how can you go and start this thing in New York, and you know your kids are in Australia, and
they're back in Australia.
Yeah, they're gonna come over in August, but I couldn't do everything all at the same time, and you know it'd be really easy for me to go, oh, you know what, I'm 42, a mother of 3, I missed my chance, you know, I can't go and live and start a business in New York. It's not the right time. But it's like, why? You know, I look at it and think, my kids have got a front row seat in dream chasing. You know, they're watching a dream being chased. It's my dream that I'm chasing, and they're watching, and all I want for them is to chase their dreams. And so my view is like, who am I to tell them to chase their dreams if I'm too scared to? You know, I have to show them that.
Well, I'm getting goosebumps.
But you know, that was probably, someone said to me the other day, how do you not feel guilty, and how do you not feel mother guilt? And you know, like, you struggle terribly with not being with them, obviously. But as far as, I don't feel any guilt because what I did was I sat down one day and said, well, what's the one lesson? Like, if I could only tell them one thing, if I only wanted them to just do one thing in their whole life and that was the only thing I could teach them, what would it be? And I was like, I don't want them to settle. I don't want them to settle for the job they don't really like or the relationship they're not really happy in. Like, I just want them to go for it, no matter how risky their dream is or how unlikely it is that they'll be successful. I just want them to give it their all and go for it. And then I went, well, who am I to tell them to do that? Am I going to say, oh, can you go and do that because I was too scared, I couldn't do it, but I want you to do it? I have no right to tell them what they should do if I'm too scared to do it. And I think when I got really clear on what my number one lesson I would want to teach my kids was, and then looked at myself and said, well, if that's the lesson, then you got to start living that. And that then took all the guilt away, because it all became, you know what, I'm going to lead by example to my children, because I would just hate my kids to come to me when they're adults and say, you know what, I always wanted to be this, or I wish I'd gone and lived here, or I wish I didn't stay with that person. You know, that would break my heart. So it's like, if they tell me that and it would break my heart, then why is it okay for me to live like that? It's not okay. So that was sort of, and so from then on it was just all about chasing dreams. Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't matter if it doesn't all work out, because it's all just an experience every day, you know, and a learning every day. So it's just the journey. It's not really about any end result as such. So, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's a very good, I mean, I'm here, my kids are at home. It's a week only, but they're also a little younger.
Yeah, and they're fine. They're fine. It's us, it's harder for us. I ring my kids and I'm like, oh, hi, like, you know, how are you? And, you know, sorry, or just like, oh, I'm going to see you in, you know, 2 weeks. And they'll be like, we're about to go and get ice cream. That's like all they care about. It's like, they're not at all worried about 2 weeks. They're worried about the ice cream they're about to have in about 10 minutes.
So how often do you see them?
Well, I just came back on Monday. I went back just for 5 days for my eldest son's graduation. Before that, it had been 7 weeks, which is the longest I had been away.
Yeah.
So I was really felt that. But then I'll see them in 2 weeks at Christmas, and then 2 weeks after that I'll go back for...
So you go a lot?
Yeah, I try. So 6 weeks is a good amount of momentum time, because I find every time I travel I lose so much momentum, work-wise and just personally. I just lose my routine, and the flight is, you know, it's like 30 hours and I just get shattered. So now, after this sort of, because it was Christmas and there was end of school and then start of school, then between now and when they come over, it'll be probably seven weeks blocks. I'm still on some boards in Australia and have some responsibilities, but once that all finishes in July, then they'll be here, and then I don't want to get on a plane for a really long time. But you know, like, it's just the way that it had to be, and I look at things and go, okay, if this is what I want to achieve, how can that be done? And I just get all the puzzle pieces and I take them out and I put them back in, and I take them out and I just, you know, work it out and go, well, that picture, everything's going to have its sacrifices or its bad bits, but that picture looks the best way, so I'm going to do it like that. And if at any point it's not working, then I'll change it. And you know, if at any point the kids were struggling, then I change the configuration of the puzzle. But while it's working,
yeah, it's always, I mean, people say a lot of things. What society tells you, society tells you a lot of things, what you should do, what you must do, or whatever. In the end, it's only a decision that you have to make for yourself and your family. So.
And that's right. It's like, you know, you do whatever is right for your family, because people only ever see a tiny bit of your life and they may comment on it. It's like, I just don't care what others think, because at the end of the day, if it's not working, if at any point whatever I'm doing is not working, then I change it, and whilst it's working, it's fine. It makes no difference to what anyone else thinks. And you know, this experience has been the most phenomenal thing for the kids. You know, it's like we're doing this sort of family project with me coming and doing this, and the learnings that I'm having and being able to share, and it's so hard. It is so hard, but there's something about when you're really doing things that are hard. Like, there's a sense of
growing.
Yeah, the sense of growing and that grit, and like, you know, like I'll have days where I'll just have the most awesome day at work, and then I'll get on the subway and burst into tears, because like it's like, oh my gosh, I've had the best day, and I'm in New York City and I'm starting a business here and I can't believe I'm doing this. And then I'll get on the subway, I'm going, oh, I'm going home and I'm not with my children. Like, this is just not right. But it's like, that's the experience right now for this amount of time. And I learnt pretty early on in this process that just to not try and change the hard bits. So it's like, I feel really like sad right now because I'm not going home to my kids, or I feel really lonely right now. So don't try and mask that. Like, don't try and cover it up with, you know, going shopping or getting on social media. Just sit in that. You know, that's what this is about. You know, like you're meant to feel like that. I'm meant to feel crappy right now because I'm not going home to my kids and I want to be. And that's absolutely okay. So just suck it up and grow from it and learn from that. So now I sort of am very, and this is just, I've learned from doing this experience of like, just enjoy every experience for what it is, even the really bad bits, enjoy that for what it is, because I'm learning so much from that. So I don't mask it anymore. Like I used to, you know, oh, I'm feeling really sad. So like, what can I do to distract myself? And then I went, you know what? One day I went, I'm going to go, I'm feeling really lonely and sad. I'm going to put on some really lonely and sad music and walk around and just cry. And it was sort of like this really, yeah, like I'm feeling this and so I should, and this is part of the experience, and what an amazing growth. And so, you know, I don't know, that's how I'm dealing with different things, and it's certainly interesting.
For sure, we have to be more honest to ourselves
Yeah.
on the inside and not only cover it on the outside.
And I think in workplaces, it's interesting because everyone's sort of like, oh, you're meant to be happy all the time, and like you've got to have workplaces that, you know, everyone's happy and everyone loves their work. And we have one of the values at What's Next is we're passionate, and in tough times we fight. And the reason I say that to the team is that I want you to be passionate, but some days are just going to suck. You know, we're going to have months where it just sucks, whether it be because we've got too much work on and everyone's stressed, or that we don't have enough work on and we're all stressed. You know, there's some times where it's just not going to be that good and we're not going to like it. And you know what? That is okay, because we're not meant to be happy all the time. We're not meant to be engaged all the time. It's not meant to be awesome all the time. Like, that's not life. It's about being able to go, everything sucks right now, but I'm not going to quit. So I say to them, we're passionate, but in tough times we fight. So when it sucks, we don't quit. We don't complain. We just come in and we go, oh, it sucks, and let's get to work and, you know, have some drinks on Friday, and, you know, let's just be honest about it sucks. And you know what? That's okay. Yes, if it sucks all the time, then, you know, make some changes. But I think we put out this whole happiness, we have to be happy all the time. That's just such bullshit. You know, that's not life. And we don't want to teach people that you have to be happy all the time or engaged all the time. It's about being able to deal with the different experiences you're having and recognise that that's normal, or recognise, you know what, I need to make a change. They're two different things, you know, and I think we're losing a bit of resilience in people because there's this whole, oh, it's not perfect, so I'm going to quit, or I'm going to not do that anymore.
Search for something better.
Yeah, and I think then you're always searching as opposed to growing. And I think that's what that is about, me going, I'm going to sit in feeling yuck, because that just makes me stronger, as opposed to trying to go, oh, I feel yuck, I better go home, this isn't working. You know, there's so many times where I've gone, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's like, you know, that's the price of the reward you wanted or the experience you wanted, you know. So I think in workplace, it's like, let's stop talking so much about how we need to make everyone happy all the time, because like, you're never going to win that battle. So, you know, talk to your staff about, let's talk about it when it sucks, but let's not shy away from it. There's nothing wrong with when it sucks, you know. So, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful. I feel like I'm ranting on
No,
now.
it was amazing.
I feel like I've gone off on all these tangents of stuff.
But you know, that's what I mean. That's also why we don't prepare questions or guidelines. You know, what are you going to talk about or something? Because it just comes. It's authentic, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's interesting at the moment because I'm learning so much on a personal level every day.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I reflect on that all the time about, oh, what's going on there for me right now? You know, this is a new thing that I'm learning. Being here, you know, is so different to what I expected.
How long have you been here now?
So we started the business here about 4 months ago, but I had been coming back and forth for quite a while and working out, I came to a point where I was like, do I want to live in New York, or do I just want to escape to New York?
Yeah.
Because if I make it my home, then I can't run away to New York. And so when I brought my kids over in December, we were sort of scoping out whether I should actually move, we should move here. And they're like, Mum, you have to be here. You're like, this is like your place. And so then I started coming with a different lens and started to think about, you know, what would it mean to live here? What would it mean to live here with kids? Because like where I live, we've got a big house with a pool, and
I can only imagine this would be a nightmare to live with kids. Like
yeah, and in fact they've got so much space. They've all got a room. We go to the beach is 5 minutes away, you know, and coming here we're all going to be in like a tiny apartment together. It's like a completely different experience for them. But you know, so I was, but then you know, I did a fair bit of research. But until you get here and actually start doing business here, then I sort of it's been really different, and the things that have been, the challenges have been different to what I expected. So different challenges, you know.
What are the challenges?
Well, one, people not understanding my accent, which I didn't expect. But it's like the little things, the little daily things. So setting up a bank account was really hard, and getting my phone to work is really hard. Whenever I have to make a phone call, no one understands what I'm saying on the phone. All these little things.
Do you talk with a strong accent right now, or is it like a...
This is just an Australian accent, but...
I don't know why people have trouble understanding you.
I don't understand either.
Just look at the slang.
The slang, maybe, yeah. But it's the little daily things that we take for granted. So like, you know, every day I was having trouble with the bank. Every day, you know, and then I couldn't get this because I needed this, and then they needed to see that. Like, it was just, I was like, I'm just trying to, you know, do one basic thing. So those little things surprised me. And they're more probably around living here and starting up a business here. As far as the actual business goes, there's different opportunities to what I expected. So there were certain things that we do in Australia that I didn't, you know, that they're good, but you know, they probably weren't as valued, whereas here they're highly valued. Like, people really weren't doing some of the things that we do. So it's been a lot of learning of like, oh, people seem to be really interested about that topic, but I wasn't really going to talk much about that topic, stuff like that. So it's just everyday learning. Yeah.
That's what we realized today, Tonya, when we were talking about how hard it is for us to implement tools in Germany with companies and train the people, and it's really, I mean, it's so much energy, and again and again and again. And here it seems like everyone has these tools, everyone appreciates these tools, they just need a little bit of focus and structure around it.
Yes.
Which we Germans, we're very good at structure and focus and these kind of things.
Yes.
So we're like, hey, let's go here and do this here.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems so much. So maybe that's what you mean, like you thought. It's different in Australia and here.
Exactly. So. And I think here I've found everyone is so supportive. You know, everyone wants you to win. And it's not that they don't in Australia. I just think that there's much more abundance here than there is at home. And you know, that makes sense. It's a much bigger place, you know, than Australia. And I think that's been cool. You know, people have been, what can I do to help you, and who can I connect with you? Just really willing to help everybody that I've met. So that's been really nice. But I mean, I think it's the best city in the world. You know, I really have a massive love affair with it. Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.